So is it right to say that the pay slips raise integrity questions to this time as to what they ought to have paid as tax?
So the correct narrative should be, is that a full disclosure? The pay slip, is that a full disclosure? So we also want to see the tax returns filed by those heading those tax authorities or revenue authorities.
And that will now substantiate if this pay slip is real or not.
No, I'm talking generally about those in government, those in public positions. Because when you say people are not paying the correct tax, I think we should start from you, who is also collecting the tax. Some of the incomes that we know they also earn. For example, we have an arrangement where these tax authorities engage what is called consultants to go and gather information the way they've described it. And we all know that when these informations are gathered, those consultants are paid. And a percentage of what goes to those consultants also goes or are actually shared by the directors of those tax agencies and chairmen of the Internal Revenue Service. Now, the question is that, do they disclose those incomes they earn outside their statutory emoluments? Now, the argument here is that when you say people are not paying taxes and you rather slam them with additional taxes or raise their income arbitrarily, what you're actually doing is that you are not improving the tax system, because we complain that the tax revenue contribution to GDP is very low in Nigeria. Okay. And so you require people to come into the tax net voluntarily.
Let's look at those slips now and see how we can move from there. This is the one from the House of Reps, this payroll system. And we see the deductions on the extreme right. And looking through all of those, can you determine if proper tax or adequate, as you refer to a tax, is paid in this case, or what?
Okay, now we have 3 items here: basic, constituency, and recess. Now, based on what we've seen in the media, these 3 do not cover their total allowances. Now, if this is what is filed as the tax returns, so what this means is that you are supposed to now multiply this by 12. So if you multiply this by 12, and the tax paid, the monthly is just 55. So you multiply that 55, you'll be having about 600 to 700,000 as the annual tax paid by Mr. Speaker. Now, while I say there should be full disclosure, because this may not be his tax returns. So the question is that, does he disclose other income that he earns? You understand? Now, because of the process of determining this tax, and as I've highlighted those long sections, so you arrive at adequate tax. That is, look at what is the effective tax that the person has paid, rather than just looking at a projection and slamming it on taxpayers. So say, you did not declare all your income.
Okay, let's flip and look at some of the figures released by Kaduna State Governor about his own as well. If we could take a look at that. Were you having looked through it? Did you think that that in any way represents adequate tax payment?
Now, that too does not represent full disclosure. But if we are going to judge the pay slip the way it is, then we say that the governor has not paid his correct tax as well. Because if they can put the slips on now, the tax it is paying on a monthly basis is just about 85,000 naira. And any manager in a bank pays more than that.
Has he paid more or less?
I'm saying a bank manager.
That means the manager may have been earning more than
the executive governor of Kaduna State, which is not correct. So that also brings us to the issue of
which one is not correct? That a bank manager doesn't or cannot earn higher than him?
Yeah, that's from the figures they've given now. What that means that the bank manager is earning more than the governor of a state, which is, I don't think is correct.
It's a civil service level. It's a civil service level. That
yeah, it's a civil service level, but there are other allowances. And as a governor, are you saying that it does not have other sources of income that it should disclose in its tax returns?
But other than this security vote, are they supposed to also pay? Does the law require that they pay taxes on security votes?
No, the law does not require them to pay taxes on security votes. They are to pay taxes on their official emolument. And if they also have other sources of income, then they should also pay tax on those other sources of income. That's why you have all those long sections in the tax law that talks about how income from trade, employment, investment, right granted to third party should be assessed to tax.
Rights granted to third party. All right, let's get Marquez's question in first before we go back to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, but based on what has been released in their pay slips, I mean, whether or not they earn or far more or far less than a bank manager, you know, it's not the issue here. The issue is based on what they have released, are they paying the correct tax?
Well, this is the argument, whether correct tax or adequate tax. And I said I'm advocating for adequate tax. Because when you go by the rule of correct tax, then what that means is that everybody is evading tax all over the world because of the way taxes are computed. The different lines of income that should be subjected to tax. Now, the objective of this argument between correct and adequate tax is for us to actually get our tax systems right or correct, because the tax authority seems to complain that so many people are not paying taxes or they are evading taxes. And the true issue is that because of the way we are administering taxes, our tax system is not efficient, the tax rates are high, and those collecting the taxes, that is the tax administrators, are not also helping the system because they too are earning income which they are not paying tax. So if you say some people are not paying correct tax, then it should start from you. Have you also disclosed or paid tax on all your income? There is a narrative.
How did you determine that they too are not paying adequate tax?
I've just given you the sources of income.
I mean, those who are collecting the tax themselves?
Yes.
You mean like
apart
some
yes.
in the FIRS or the different states IRSs?
Yes. What I've stated the other sources of income, because what that payslips disclose is just that official or statutory allowances. But we also know that they earn other income. Let me give you this example. If you look at the companies incorporated in CAC and the number of companies that file returns, you discover that there's a wide disparity between those that file returns and not. But when you look at that percentage of companies, those companies that don't file returns, you discover most of those companies too are portfolio companies that are owned by government officials.
Oh dear.
So if we want to talk about filing returns or increasing tax compliance, then this issue of full disclosure, transparency is now a welcome idea. All of us should now come to the tax net with all our incomes.
Did you carry out an investigation to determine that the records that come from the Corporate Affairs Commission, are they really owned by the government officials, as you put it?
Well, I've done a study. I've done a study, and I've written a book called Tax Strategy. And as a futurist, I've looked at the tax system, which is over what it should be by year 2025. And based on my research, I've seen some of these things. And if we have to improve the tax revenue collection as against the GDP, then some of these things have to be put right, and everyone has to pay adequate tax.